guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we are back with another recommendations video. And so I have 10 books that I want to recommend to you guys that will literally have you laughing out loud. Now, I can't speak for every reader, but for me, I tend to use reading as a form of escapism. I like to pick up books that will transport me somewhere else, that will have my mind thinking about something else. And sometimes I just need a good laugh. Now, everybody finds different things funny. For me, I tend to find things funny that probably weren't meant to be funny, but I found some humor in them. Most of these books are literally unserious. I think that's how they were meant to be, and I found them to be hilarious. There are a couple in here that probably weren't supposed to be as funny as I found them, but they were hilarious to me, so I wanted to recommend them to you guys. So most of these are mystery thrillers. I do have a horror in here. I have a adult fiction, and then I have one that's like fiction with like a little bit of romance. So I have a little bit of something for everybody. So we will go ahead and get started. So one of the books that I want to recommend to you that I found to be totally unserious, this is The Suburban Hell by Maureen Kilmer. This is a horror book, and it's more of like a lighthearted horror. So in this one, we're following these four mothers, and they are pretty close. They all live in the same neighborhood. Their kids are around the same age. They all go to the same school. They're like involved in the PTA and whatnot. So typical things for mothers. Well, they decided that they really wanted to form this group, and they wanted to make this she shed as a part of like their clubhouse. So they go into their friend Liz's backyard. They construct this she shed, and then the next morning they start to notice some weird things about Liz, and they believe it's because of that she shed, and they also believe that she has been possessed by a demon, and so now they have to get this demon out of Liz. Parts of this were so freaking hilarious. Like I said, it is a horror, so there are those horror elements in it. It does have some commentary about motherhood, but at the heart of this, it is a hilarious, funny, demonic story. So if that is your kind of thing, if you're looking for horror, or if you are new to horror, I think this one would be a great place to start. Another book that I want to recommend to you, this is my fiction pick. This is one that I feel like is so severely underrated. This is How to Age Disgracefully by Claire Pooley. So this is one that I read on a whim from NetGalley. It was one of their read now options. The premise of it sounded good, so I wanted to check it out, and this was a pleasant surprise for me, and it was also hilarious. So in this, we're following our main character Lydia, and Lydia takes up this job at this senior citizens community home, and basically she thinks it's just gonna be a good time. She's gonna play some bingo with the elderly people and just kind of, you know, make some extra money. However, that is not the case. These elderly people have some stuff going on in their lives. Not only that, at the very beginning of the story, you learn that the community center is about to be shut down. And so the people that are there, like the elderly people, and then there's like a daycare that's like attached to it, they all come together to try to put on this play to raise money to keep this place open. But there are a lot of chaotic things that happen as soon as the story happens. There is a death that I found hilarious. I know we're not supposed to laugh when people die, but this was so funny. And the story just gets more chaotic as it goes on. It's a really fun time. I really wish more people would read this one, and I suggest that you guys pick this one up. So another book that I just do not see enough people talking about, this is The Good Part by Sophie Cousins, and I really have been enjoying the last few books that I have read from this author, and she just does not get the love that I feel like she deserves. But this is The Good Part. This is a adult romance, but kind of reads more like fiction, but there is romance in it. And so we're following our main character, Lucy. I really think that was her name. We follow Lucy. She is not happy with her job. She's not happy where she is in life. She is feeling like she is ready to find the love of her life. And she uses her last coin one night on this wishing machine where she wishes that she could wake up to the life of her dreams. And literally the next morning, she wakes up in a bed to a new life. She's married to some man she doesn't know. She has a child she doesn't know. She works at a job that she is not familiar with. And so now she's trying to navigate this life that she wanted, but she doesn't really know what to do with, because now she has to convince everybody that she is supposed to be here. What I really found hilarious about this story is her trying to keep up with these lies, because the man that she's with, they have been married for a few years, and like she knows absolutely nothing about this guy, and so she has to try to figure all this out. She's going to work and she has no idea how to do her job because she's never done it before, so she has to figure that out. The most funny thing about this book is the little boy, her quote unquote son, who the first time he looks at her and he's like, you are not my mommy. I don't know who you are, but you are not her. And so she is doing everything that she can to try to convince this little boy that she is in fact his mother, and he is not having it. This was so funny. I enjoyed this from start to finish. Now, again, this is a book that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and you guys should. You guys should pick this up. If you don't like this one by Sophie Cousins, she has a lot of other books, and they all have a humorous element to them. But this one I found to be her funniest yet. Another fiction one that I have, this is People Person by Candace Carty Williams. If that name sounds familiar to you, a few years ago, she came out with a really popular book called Queenie. I actually really enjoyed Queenie. The time that I read that, it was like one of my favorite books of that year. There's also a TV show. So if you liked Queenie, then you should check out the show on Hulu. But we have People Person. Now, I am not sure that this was supposed to be as funny as I found it, but I found parts of this to be extremely hilarious. So in this one, our main character that we follow is Dimple, but she has 5 other siblings, but she's not close to them. Her father was basically a Rolling Stone. Like, he had children all over the neighborhood, but a bunch of different women. And so these siblings aren't necessarily close. Like, they know of each other, they've obviously spoken to each other, but they don't really have a relationship with each other. Well, there is a situation that Dimple finds herself in, and she has no one else to call on but her siblings. And so they actually all come to her rescue and they help her with this situation. And throughout this whole story, we are seeing these siblings come together to try to help Dimple with this situation. And it's not a situation that I thought we were gonna get in this story, but I found it hilarious. Some of these siblings are really hilarious. Even though this is a funny book to me, at the heart of it, it's really talking about sibling relationships, their dynamics with each other, them trying to form a relationship with their father, the jealousy that they have with how some siblings seem to be closer to the father than others. That's what the story is really about. But this situation is still looming in the background, and I found it to be hilarious. So if you have read Queenie by this author and you did not know that they had another book, they do. It is People Person, and I would highly recommend. Next up, we have Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. This is adult sci-fi. You guys have probably heard me talk about this because this is probably one of my all-time favorite books. I have read it several times. I have read it physically. I have listened to it on audio. I have seen the movie. There was a movie that came out, I think like 2 years ago at this point, that stars Robert Pattinson as the main character of Mickey. I almost called him Edward. That is not his name. It's Robert Pattinson. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I found this one also to be hilarious. So in this one, we are following Mickey 7, and he is what we would consider an expendable. So this story takes place well into the future, and a group of people are trying to inhabit this new planet. And so Mickey got this job as an expendable. It is a job that nobody wanted, but he needed to have it. And so basically what that means is that he is the one that goes out on these missions that could potentially get him killed. If he dies, they just make another iteration of him. And at the start of the story, we are on Mickey 7. However, there are certain stipulations that come with him taking this job as an expendable. One of the biggest ones is that there can't be 2 copies of him at one time, and that is exactly what happens. At the beginning of the story, Mickey is on a mission, and his friend leaves him for dead. He thought that Mickey got himself into a situation that he can't get out of, and he thought that Mickey was dead. However, he wasn't. By the time Mickey 7 makes it back to like their home base, he finds out that they have already made another copy of him, which is Mickey 8. So Mickey 7 and Mickey 8 are trying to not reveal to everybody that there is 2 of them, but there's also something else like going on this planet that they have decided to inhabit. I think Mickey 7 is a hilarious character. His inner dialogue was funny. How he came to be an expendable, I thought was funny. And the banter between Mickey 7 and Mickey 8 I found to be hilarious. Now, I have seen the movie. Parts of it are funny, but I do think that the book may have been better. They made some choices with that movie, but I think if you guys are into sci-fi and if that premise sounded good, please check this out. So next, we are moving into all of my mystery thrillers. Now, some of these, like I mentioned before, I don't necessarily think they were supposed to be as funny as I found them, while other ones, they were definitely intentionally supposed to be a little unserious. So first up, we have Swiped. This is by L.M. Chilton. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this one, but I think this is so good. So in this one, we're following Gwen. And Gwen is a woman. She's out here dating around as one should until she can find, you know, her guy. But a lot of her dates are very disastrous and she just kind of moves on to the next. Until she realizes that a lot of these people that she has went on dates with are turning up murdered. And somehow she ends up at like the murder scene for every single one of them. This story brings a little bit of attention to like online dating, but the character herself is hilarious. And then there's like a detective that we also follow where he is wondering how she is also ending up at these crime scenes. So of course she is their prime suspect. But I found this one to be hilarious. It's also really a underrated story. So I think you guys should check this one out. Now this is one of the ones that I said, I don't think this was probably supposed to be as funny as I personally found it. But this is Not a Happy Family by my girl, Sherry Lapina. And so in this, we are following 3 siblings. So 2 sisters and a brother. And on Easter night, after their family has came together for Easter dinner, their parents are found murdered. And the police are looking at each of these siblings because of their parents' murder, they are all set to get a big inheritance. And so the police think they did it. One of the funniest things that I found in this book, and it happened really early on, and it was how I knew that this author was going to be for me, was the day before the murder, this whole family is sitting down at the dinner table for Easter. And now each of these siblings, they have their own personal dramas going on. And their father is not a very nice man. And he literally went to each child while they are all at dinner, while they have other family there, while these people have their spouses there. And he read his children for filth. He literally told them every bad thing about themselves. Now that sounds horrible, but I found that hilarious. My mouth was on the floor because I cannot believe he was talking to his children like that and nobody said anything. Outside of that, I found this story to be hilarious because of how some of them were acting, particularly the brother. Now they are also trying to figure out who killed their parents while also not looking guilty in front of the police. But some of their actions, particularly the brother, seem to scream guilty. And I thought this story was so funny. If you have not read anything by Sherry Lapina, she is known for her domestic thrillers. I think this is a good place to start. Next up, this was the release in 2025 that I also found hilarious. This is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. This is one of the ones that I feel like it was so unserious, but it was also funny at the same time. So we follow this woman, Lottie. Lottie is a retired serial killer. She has gone off the grid. She is living her life. She likes to go play bingo with people at her church. So she is like really trying to be low key until this lady decides to come to her door, and she is wanting to do like this documentary series about women or people in general who were at once being accused of murder. And Lottie wants absolutely nothing to do with this. Like, she doesn't want any attention on her. She's just trying to live her life, okay? She's like in her 80s. She's retired. She just wants to chill, and this lady is ruining that. And so somehow this lady ends up dead. And then another person ends up dead, and then somebody else ends up dead. And Lottie is trying to figure all of this out, and it looks like she has been brought out of retirement. This was so funny. I really like Lottie's character, and I really like because she is older, she is making mistakes that she would not have made in the past, and now she's making mistakes while trying to cover up these mistakes. And it's just a really chaotic, funny story with an elderly character. And I have learned, or I have been learning, that I have really been enjoying reading reading stories about the elderly. They're just funny. And I found this one to be funny. Another book by Samantha Downing. This was actually my first book by this author. This is a twisted love story. And we're following two characters, Ivy and Wes, who are like off again, on again. These are two people who should never be together, like ever. They are the most toxic couple ever. And so basically they're, at this point, I think they're like trying to be on again, but there's a situation that happened in their past that now is coming to light, and a detective is actually looking into both of them, and like the story kind of takes off from there. But we get flashbacks to their past and like their relationship over the few years and how this situation happened. And it's so petty, it's so childish, and I found it to be so funny. I'm not sure if that was the intention that Samantha Downing had for this story. I know a lot of people that have read this have said they didn't like it because of how childish the characters were, but I feel like that's kind of the point. I think they were meant to be childish, and that's what I really liked about this story. We have two grown adults that were acting like they were doing things to each other that I feel like teenagers would do. Sometimes was it annoying? Sure. But a lot of the times I found it to be funny. And like I said, these are two people that should not be together. I don't think that if you decide to pick this up, you should go in thinking that it's going to be like this serious thriller. That is not what this is. It is really, really unserious. I had a good time with it. I thought it was funny. I would recommend it. The last book that I have here, and it is a book that I have really enjoyed. It is another book that is so freaking unserious, but I found it hilarious. This is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. So we're following this woman, Emma. She is like, I think she's house sitting for somebody, but while she's there, she leaves a bad review for this author's book. I think it was like a 1-star review, and that author did not take it well. And so now all of a sudden she feels like she is being stalked in this house, and she thinks that it is the author. This is so chaotic. This is at some point stupid. Like the author and how they're described was so funny to me. I was like on the edge of my seat to see where the chaos was going to go. This is one of the stories that's like a book within a book, because we are getting like excerpts from the author's book that I also found to be really funny. This again is like one of those thrillers. Do not go into it expecting something serious. I mean, there are parts of it that are serious, especially when you get some backstory into Emma and like why she is where she is and some of the stuff that happened in her past. That was kind of sad. But this person that's after her, I thought it was funny. If you have not checked out anything by Taylor Adams, I'm pretty sure they're pretty popular. Their most popular book is No Exit. But if you're looking for something that's more of a not so serious thriller, I would definitely check this out. So those are the 10 books that I wanted to recommend you guys that I found to be hilarious. Again, I don't think all of these were meant to be as funny as I found them, and that's fine. But if you have read any of these, please let me know your thoughts down below, and let me know whether or not you found them to be funny, or if I have been able to convince you to pick any of these up. Please let me know which ones you want to check out. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.